just want to talk about what we're dealing with and not dealing with by using this as a standard way to enter our date fields from a form into our SQL database. So one of the things is date formats, like Americans do MMDDYYYY, and we do it differently typically. By doing this formatting, which goes year, month, date, hour, minute, firstly, we're consistent, and secondly, this actually sorts nicely because we've got the largest thing first and the next largest. So if we just sort without anything else, this will be automatically sorted correctly. Something that we're kind of not addressing is time zones, because like if your server and the person using your application, your client, is in the same time zone, that's not a problem. But often with web applications, that's very much not the case. So you need to decide, when we're storing a time, do we store the server's time and date, probably the correct answer, or the client's time and date? Sometimes that might be valid. Or actually the preferred thing would be a universal time and date, and then also record what offset the user is at, which time zone they're actually in. It all gets a bit more complicated than we'd like to deal with in this year anyway, so we're just kind of parking that and just saying, slap it in there, date time, all good. Something that we probably should be aware of is if you were to just store, say, the date without a time, you can actually do that, that's fine, do this, and it will store it as a 0000000 time. So kind of midnight, which is fair enough. But you can also just store a time on its own, which by doing this, and what that will then do is automatically store it probably as the 1st of January 1900. But with the time there, which is not necessarily a problem with your times. Works just fine. The 1st of January 1900 is sort of default 0 of the date time data type. And just out of interest, the maximum value you can have is the year 9999, 31st of December 9999. Which is going to be plenty big enough for most of our purposes, I'd have thought. Just be aware, though, you may come across this. There is a different storage data type called timestamp. So you'll often see 1st of January 1970, which is as being the start of time, which is mostly good enough. But I was born before then, so I guess maybe for me it feels like it's not very inclusive. I don't know. But the biggest problem with using that format is it's going to run out on the 19th of January 2038, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to cause all kinds of problems potentially when databases just suddenly have no way to record the correct time because it's out of range for the data type they're using. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Hopefully it'll be dealt with effectively by everybody long before then. You never know, do you? That's kind of the summary of the main issues around date times, and you can kind of see why it is that we're just saying let's keep it simple and just do the date time object, slap it in this format and call it done. It just saves us a lot of effort otherwise.